Okay, so like I said, our today's topic is going to be some of the commonly used terms in our day-to-day life while working as a business analyst. So, what are these terms? Like, what do you mean by requirement, deployment, teams? Okay, so we'll look at some of these terms to get ourselves familiarized with what these terms actually mean. And these two sessions, I mean, the today's session and tomorrow's session are more with keeping in mind about people who belong to non-IT background. Okay, so I've listed down few of the few of the terms that are commonly used. Now, when we go through the session, we will discuss about what each of these terms mean, and we'll also try to understand from some of the examples. Okay, so let's get started. First term is our statement of work. Okay, statement of work is also commonly known as, when you get into industry, people would often abbreviate it as SOW or statement of work. So basically, what this means is before customer and IT organization they start their work, or before they get into an agreement, before they actually start working on building a software, they get into an agreement. Okay, like what is expected out of our agreement, what will be the duration of our agreement, what type of work the IT organization is going to carry out for the customer, what is expected from the customer, okay, when the agreement will be terminated, and those type of things. So that agreement is termed as statement of work. Okay, this agreement defines what is the nature of the work that is being undertaken by the IT industry to fulfill the needs of the customer. Okay, so that is the very first thing that happens before any of our IT work gets started. Customers and organization, they both sign the statement of work. Okay, and this statement of work can be considered as a rule book. Okay, so that if suppose a client in US may want that their data, whatever their data is, should not go outside of US. Okay, so they may mention this in the statement of work. Okay, now that becomes a rule book. So any IT organization that is working for that customer need to ensure that the data doesn't go outside of US, that the data remains within the boundaries of US. Okay, so next is scope. What do we mean by scope? So scope actually helps us list down or describes the boundaries for the product or the software. Okay. So remember when we play cricket match, we have boundaries defined. Okay. If the ball if the ball directly crosses the boundary, it is considered as six. If it goes on the ground and then crosses boundary, it's considered four. Okay, so boundary is defined as the playing field. So all players have to be within the boundary line. No one actually is allowed to field outside the boundary line. So similarly, when you start your work as a business analyst, when you are working on creating any application or any software, we need to describe the boundaries of that software or that application or the product, that what will be the limitation, that is called as the scope of the product. Okay, while working on building the software, it is very important to define the scopes. Okay, scope actually tells everyone what is the expected output. Scope helps us as in business analyst and customers and all the stakeholders to identify the limits of the product. Okay. Suppose you designed a product, you created an e-commerce application. That e-commerce application allows you to add certain items to the cart, check out the items, and then opt for cash on delivery method only. It doesn't allow you to make online payments. Now that is the scope of the product, or that no online payments are allowed in our product. Okay, so when people discuss with each other, when customer asks like why online payment is not there, so you can show them that this is not part of our scope. Initially, when we agreed upon our scope or limitations for the product, we agreed that it will be cash on delivery only, no online payment. If you want online payment to be included, that is extra work. So we can do the work, but it will take us some time. So that is what scope helps us. It helps us define the boundaries to understand what will be included in the product and what will not be included. Basically, what will be excluded from the product. So this helps us set clear pictures with respect to product. Okay, what to expect, what not to expect from the product. So that is scoping. When we write down our requirements, we will go through that. We have to clearly outline what will be included in our product in requirement document and what will not be included, so that there is no disagreement at a later point of time. Now next is our change request or change requirement. It is often abbreviated as CR. So when you get into IT industry or when you start working as BA, you will often hear the term that create a CR, what's the CR number, where's the CR. So basically they're referring to CR as change request or change requirement. That is, whenever you start your work, okay, suppose we have signed the agreement, we created the requirement document outlining the scope for our document. Now, once the requirement document and scope is complete, now we have started working on it. Now, while working on developing the software, suppose customer wants additional changes. Okay, so they want some change which is over and above what was agreed upon. Let's say we agreed upon that we will only allow cash on delivery, no digital payments. Now they come back and say that no, no, we want online payments as well. We don't want to just go with cash on delivery only. So what customers will do is they will create a change request that they need additional changes to the existing product or to the existing work that is going on. Okay, so again this new request, you will take it, you will start creating the scope of it, requirement document. So far, any questions guys with respect to these three terms that we have covered so far? Okay, so this change request can come in while you are working on a request, while you are trying to implement a requirement, at the same time for an existing product that you are not working on it as such, but there's a product and now customer wants some changes in the existing product. Next is elicitation. Okay, so what is the elicitation? So elicitation basically is elaboration. Okay, so we discussed that customers usually give you a very high level requirement. Okay, so let me open yesterday's notes. Okay, so see this, we started that customers will give you very high level requirement. Okay, this requirement is not specific, but they basically tell you their idea that what is it that they are looking for. Okay, so you need to take their idea And from their idea, you need to identify what is it that the customer exactly wants. Okay, so from the idea to what exactly is needed is called as elicitation. Okay, so in elicitation you use any method like interview or interrogation, JAD sessions, that we are going to see once we get on to this course in further details, that how do we use different methods or techniques to draw out emotions out of the customer, or to get to know the facts from the customer, or even to get to know the opinion of the customer. Okay, then we use whatever information we get out of customer, okay, to list down the details. So in our yesterday's example, what did we do? In our yesterday's example, we went on interrogation method or probing. Okay, so we asked certain questions and then tried to get answer to that questions. Okay, so we kept asking questions until we get to a final state where we have a specific requirement. Instead of an ambiguous statement, we have something specific to work on. So that is this is what is elicitation techniques, and that is what we will see in further classes. How do we do these elicitations? What are the different methods for these elicitations? Okay. Next is business rules. Okay. Now, business rules are basically anything which can cover policies, procedures, or guidelines that tells us how the business operation should be performed. Now, to give you an example of it, consider the case of vote. Okay. Now, in order to cast your vote, I'm asking about the political voting. Okay, wherein we go and elect an MLA or MP. Now, for your political voting, what is it that's the minimum criteria? Okay, so government has laid down certain rules. Rule number one is that you should be Indian national person or Indian citizen. Okay, then only you can go and cast your vote. Now, if you are Indian citizen, then what's the next criteria? We have so many people are living in India, Indian citizens. Is everyone eligible to vote? No. Next is your age should be 18 years and plus, 18 years and more. Only if you are 18 years and above, then only you can go and cast your vote. Okay. Number third, we have another criteria is I'm staying, let's say, in Hyderabad or in a different city. Can I go and cast vote in some other state altogether? Again, the answer is no. You need to get a voter ID created. Okay, you need to have a voter ID card that will enable you to vote in that particular state. Okay, so when you create your voter ID card, your name is added to the voter list, and then you can go and vote over there in that particular state. Now, what is this? These three criteria. If you fulfill those criteria, then you go to the polling booth, and if your name is there in the polling booth, you cast your vote. Now, these three items that we listed down here, these are our business rules. Okay, in order to fulfill or work on how the operation should be performed for voting, we have these three business rules. Okay. Similarly, for any business you take, it will have certain rules. These rules will drive or guide how the business operation is performed, whether it is your e-commerce, whether it is your banking, or your digital products, or anything that you work on. Okay, even for these shorter videos that people see, like YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, even they have business rules like A video cannot be longer than 2 minutes. It has to be a shorter video. Then only it will be considered as a reel or a shorts. So that's our business rules. Now I'll move on to the third part, that is environments. Okay. So one of the term again that you will commonly use or commonly hear is environments. Okay. Now what are these environments and how do they work on it? So okay, yeah. So I wanted to show you guys this image. Now earlier, when we used to buy desktops or laptops, so what used to happen is there is one common hard disk, and we would usually split the hard disks into multiple drives. Okay, we will name first drive as C drive, D drive, then E, F, G, or you can name it anything else also, whatever you feel comfortable. Okay, so this partition, then same hard disk is one, but there are four partitions. Now you can use each partition to the way you want to use. Like you can use one partition for storing all your relevant documents. In next partition, you can store your interview related preparation material. Then in next partition, you can store your training materials so that you can work on it. Now this is what environments actually enable you to do. Okay, so for a same type of code, they provide you access to different partitions. Okay, so what do I mean by it? Let's say you created a product. Okay, again, let's take our example. We created a voting system. So you enter someone's detail, like you enter uh, their age, you enter their Aadhaar number, and then the system will tell you whether they are eligible for voting or not. Okay, so you created a product for voting system. Now let's say there is some change that has come into this product. Okay, and what is that change? Now we want to add one criteria or modify an existing criteria. So instead of saying 18 years and above, now we will say that the age should be 21 years and above. Okay, so we want to modify one criteria. Now in IT, what happens is you don't typically change the product directly. Okay, the product is used by multiple people. So what we do is we try and change the product in a lower environment. Okay, so that it doesn't affect production. So first you take the product and make the changes. What is the change? From 18 years to 21 years. Okay, you make the change. After making the changes, you test the product. Okay, so what typically people do in IT industry is they create environment one. Let's call it development environment. This is specifically for developers. Okay, people who are into coding. So they give this environment one to developers, that whatever you want to code in the product, whatever you want to change in the product, you do it in environment one. Basically you do it in partition one, that will be called as development environment. So what they do is they copy the code, underlying code for the product, to environment one, and they start doing their changes in development in environment one, so that the main product is not impacted. Then what happens is once you are done with coding, you are okay that my coding is done, it is not throwing any error, then you move on to environment 2. Okay, this is your testing environment or your test environment or QA environment. Okay, now what happens is developer will then copy the changed code. You remember we made some changes from 18 years to 21 years. So whatever the code changes that has happened, now developer will copy from environment 1 to environment 2. Okay. Now once it gets into environment 2, then you start copying it, then you start testing it. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. Now suppose you have tested for the changes and you are satisfied with the outcome that the product is the changed product is working as designed. Now what will happen next is you move it to environment 3. Let's call this environment as UAT environment, user acceptance testing, where you are going to give demo to the customer that hey, we have made changes and we wanted to show you that the new product or the changed product is throwing error for 18 years and only 21 years and above are allowed to vote. So you give demo to the customer. Now if customer is happy with the outcome, what happens is then you move the product to next environment, environment 4, that is called as production environment. Okay, so you move your changes from environment 3 UAT environment to environment 4 or partition 4, that is your product environment, where now this particular environment 4 is basically this over here. Okay, so now no IT company wants to take the risk of directly modifying products in environment 4. Okay, there are plenty of people using your product. Let's say you want to make some changes in WhatsApp. There are billions of people who are using WhatsApp on day-to-day basis. Okay, if you try to make changes directly in environment 4 or production environment, these billions of people will get impacted. So no IT company wants to directly touch their product in the production environment. So instead what they do is they have created development environment where you first make the changes, test those changes, then move it to environment 2 where QA team will test the changes, then you move it to environment 3 where you will give demo to the user or customer. Once everything is okay, then only you finally move to environment 4, that is production environment. So this is the concept of environments in terms of IT industry. Okay, so that is what you as business analyst will be inquiring about, like uh, is the code available? Sometimes you will hear people saying that development environment is not ready. That means that the required code base is still not available for them to work upon, or the development environment is unstable, that is they may be experiencing some type of technical issues. So that is what you guys will have to look through. Okay, or understand what is meant by the environment. Now any questions so far with respect to these 6 terms that we have covered: statement of work, scope, CR, elicitation, business rules and environment?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like coming to change request, we refer to the term during in between the project or in between the development for any particular module.
Okay.
Like I'm asking, like in between the project, if we got any change request, we'll refer the if we got any request from the client, we call it as a change request, or in between the module.
Any place, even suppose if you are not working on a project, okay, suppose your product is in production and it is working as expected, even then customer will have to raise a change request. Or suppose you started your work, okay, you started into development activity, like you started in development, whether you are changing one module or 10 modules, or if you are in testing stage, your development is complete and now you have moved into testing stage, even then if customer wants to make changes, then usually you ask customer to create a change request, a separate change request. Now the exception to that could be your smaller piece of work. Suppose customer says that you have put this as bold item, I don't want it to be bold, make it normal. Now making it normal will not require a lot of time, so you may not ask customer to raise a change request. Now if customer is asking for a bigger change that would impact your project timelines, that is when you ask customer to raise a change request. If it's a very small minimal request that you can easily accommodate without impacting project timelines, then you go ahead and do changes in your development requirement document, then develop programs and test plan. But if it is a very big thing that requires or that may impact your project timelines, whether the request comes in during development of a module or of project or when you are not working, then you need to have a change request. Okay. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
And some of these decisions may not be, like I said, as a business analyst, you will not be taking any decision on your own. Even if customer is asking for a change, you will go back to your development team, testing team, discuss with them how complex the change is. If you all agree, if you three agree that it's a very small change, it will not derail us from our project timelines. We can still target or finish our work within the given timelines. Then you may not have to ask customer for creating a change request. Okay, you can simply start updating your requirement document, your technical designs, and make the required changes. But if you all agree that it's a big change and that change will cost us a good amount of time, then you want the customer to create a change request irrespective of the stage you are in. Now we'll move on to the next item, that is estimations. Okay, so what is estimation? Now assume that you want to move from place A to place B. Okay, we often do this, that I'm at my home, now I need to go to office. So instead of directly jumping outside, nowadays what we guys are doing, we just open maps and try to see how much time it will take to move from my home to office. Okay, so basically based on that, assess how bad the traffic is and accordingly plan your items. So if you have a meeting at 11 o'clock and if it takes around 1 hour to reach from your home to office, then probably you want to start at 9:30. Okay, so that you have some buffer time as well. So similarly, that is what the role of estimation is. Estimation is basically you use any techniques to try to know how much time it will take. Okay, you want to measure the work. If someone says, I want you to create a digital platform that will enable online payments, or I want you to create UPI. Now, the very first thing that comes to mind is, how much time is it going to create a system that is similar to UPI? Okay, so you try to estimate it. Okay, estimation, remember guys, is not accurate response. If I say 100 hours, 100 is not the accurate one. I try to give in estimations ballpark estimates, that if you say it will take somewhere around 80 hours to 120 hours. Okay, but instead of giving a range, you try to go on a slightly higher side. So that is how you measure the work. Now, based on this estimation only, the project plans are created. That okay, it is going to take us 500 hours to do the work. So 500 hours means, assume that it will take us 2 months. So I'll have one developer, one BA, one tester working for 2 months, and then 500 hours will be completed and my work will be completed as well. Okay, so that is what the estimation says. Before you start your work, before you start your documenting your requirements as well. Okay, once you sign on the statement of work, then the first thing that needs to happen is estimations, or during the statement of work itself, estimations. We will go at later stages who are involved in estimations, how the estimations are done. Okay, but you estimate it, because this estimation will help you create the plan. Okay, how much time needed, how many people needed, what should be the duration, what to expect on week 1, what to expect on week 2. So those type of things. And then you start getting into your work of writing down requirements, using elicitation rules, creating business rules, and for development team to start their work as well. Okay, so that is your estimation. Now next is change management. So earlier we went through change request, and this is now change management. The difference between the two is, in change request you are basically trying to address any changes that the customer wants in the product. Okay, be it during development, after development, or if you are not working on any changes also, then also you are just trying to address what changes customer wants. Okay, the next is change management. Change management is all about managing the changes, managing changes as in managing these change requests that are coming to you, so that you can prioritize. Okay, you may get two requests for changes, 2 cr, 3 crs, or 10 crs. Okay, now in change management, you try to control what is it that is extremely important that should go in first. Okay, basically you try to prioritize what should go in first, what should go in next. Okay, you try to identify dependencies, which change request has dependency on which one. Okay, and then you try to ensure that with respect to this all these techniques, your project remains on track. Okay, so you may get multiple change requests. The idea of change management is to ensure that I correctly identify dependencies on the change requests, priorities of the change request, estimations or timeline for each change request, how much time it is going to take for each change request, and then accordingly start working on them. Okay, so change management is little bit on the planning side, and change request is your actual changes that are needed. Now next is stakeholders. Again, you will hear this term a lot. Stakeholders are basically any person, whether from customer side or IT side, who is directly or indirectly impacted by the application, software, or the product you are going to create. Okay, so Here it says participants who own the business ideas. These are usually termed as business stakeholders. Okay, what do I mean by business stakeholders? Basically, your customers who have that idea that I want to create an e-commerce application. It is my idea. Okay, so I am the business stakeholders. I come to you guys because you guys are IT experts to implement my idea in terms of a software. So you guys become project stakeholders. So we have multiple types of stakeholders that we will go through this course, that what are the different stakeholders, how do you manage those stakeholders. But at this moment you can assume that anyone who is directly indirectly impacted by the execution of a project or feature or product, software or application, whoever gets directly or indirectly impacted because of this execution becomes your stakeholder. Okay, business stakeholders are particularly important because they give you the requirement. Okay, you as business analyst will use your elicitation techniques like interview or interrogation techniques to talk to stakeholders so that you can get the emotions, facts or opinion out of your stakeholders. Once you get these details, then you can create your requirement document. Okay. Any questions so far, guys? Okay, next is SME consultants or architects. Okay, now for you as a business analyst to do your job effectively, and remember, guys, that you as business analyst may not necessarily know each and everything. Okay, again, uh, we are humans. We may be good in certain aspects, and we have to learn and improve. So that's where these three key people, SME consultants and architects, will help you bridge in those gaps. Okay, so what SME is? SME is subject matter expert. Okay, so that what basically means is, suppose if you are someone who have created an expertise in digital payments. Suppose you worked on UPI and now you have mastered the digital payment space. So you become an SME, you become an expert in digital payment space. Okay, if someone asks you why do you call yourself expert, because I have worked on creating a technical stack or application that uses or handles UPI. Okay, so similarly, your SMEs also they could be experts into different areas. You could be an SME on loans. You could be an SME on two-wheeler loan, four-wheeler loan, home loans. You could be SME on banking products like savings bank account or current bank account. You could be an SME on writing policies for health insurance. You could be an SME for writing an policy for life insurance. So SMEs are basically subject matter experts, that if you are going to discuss a subject, who is expert in that subject. Okay, companies usually try to keep SMEs to help create products, what features are needed in the products, how those features can be integrated. Okay, as IT team, you are supposed to know more about the product, how to build a software, how do we ensure that my software works as per the requirement. So your thought process is more about the software. SME's thought process is more about industry guidance. Okay, then architects. Actually, I should mention this as technical architects. Now, technical architects are the people who have expertise in a particular technical domain. Let's say you talk about Python. Okay, so there could be someone who will have a complete knowledge, not complete knowledge, but a fair bit of knowledge, a very good understanding of Python. Okay, now these technical architects, they help you design your system. Take for example your regular architects. Suppose you have a plot, okay, you have a land, and you want to construct a house on that land. So what you do, you call in an architect. An architect will come, they will survey the land, and then they will talk to you about your requirements, and based on your requirements and land, then they will give the suggestion, they will create a blueprint, okay, a design of how you should construct your house, how many rooms should be there, what should be the direction of the doors, what should be the direction in which windows should be there, what should be the length of your walls, those type of things, your complete design or blueprint. So similarly, in technical architects also in IT industry, they help you create that technical design. If you want to implement a requirement into a working software, how that software should look like, what should be the components of that software, so that is the responsibility of a technical architects. So when you as business analyst are writing down your requirements, and when you take those requirements and go to technical architects will help you create a solution. Okay, so technical architects will give you a design that we can implement your requirement in this design or in this fashion using, let's say, Python, Java, whatever technology we have. So technical architects are mainly into when you are designing new products. Suppose you have already built a house, okay? Now you want to make some modifications to the house. Like now you want to change the size of the window, or now you want to change the size of the door. So will you go to the architect again? Probably the answer is no. You don't go to architect again for smaller changes. Then what you do is you directly reach out to your development lead or your development team. Okay. Now who is a dev lead or a development team? That is the people who have experience and are doing the coding work. Okay, now to understand this again with our same house example, once your architect has created the blueprint or design of the house, then architect is not going to build the house for you. Okay, you call in a mason, who will kind of oversee the entire development. That mason will call in certain skilled laborers. Okay, so the mason will then decide what type of cement we are going to use, what type of rods we are going to use, what type of window frames we are going to use, what will be the quality of it, sand and other required items. Okay, so the mason will decide then the quality of items to be used, but the mason is having the design that the architect has created. So consider mason as your development lead. Okay, a lead is also trying to dictate based on the design, how are we going to work, what type of software we are going to create, how are we going to write your programs, those type of things. Those skilled laborers who are actually doing the work, okay, they are your developers, okay, who are actually writing the code then. So whenever you get a small request, small changes in your house, you may not call an architect, you can directly call in mason, discuss the price with him and get the job done. So similarly for small changes, you may directly talk to a dev lead and get the work done. Okay, you may not necessarily call technical architects usually involve them if you are building a big feature or a brand new product or a brand new software, or you are going to make changes to an existing software. You got a change request to make some changes in the existing software, but that change request is actually huge. It will require kind of redesign of the software, or It's adding a new feature that would require a lot of time. So then you again connect with technical architects to create the design or the solution documents. Okay. SMEs help you guide. SMEs or consultants will help you guide from industry perspective. Okay. Remember, technical architects help you guide from the technical standpoint. SMEs and consultants help you guide from the industry standpoint, the industry in which you are operating. So far, any questions, guys? So technical architects help you create solution document, how those requirements will be implemented in the software. Development lead takes the solution document and tries to create a design document of how this solution can be implemented in a working software. Okay. Then next, similar to development lead, you could also have a test lead. Now these are the people who actually will test your application. Okay, test the application that is being developed. Now you don't want to simply rely on your development team that whatever they are coding is all correct and that it will never have any defects or bugs in it. So you have testing team or QA team. So that will basically test the changes that is being developed. Okay. Their job is to ensure that we are delivering a quality product that is, if not 100% bug free, at least 80%, 85% bug free, so that most of our transactions can go through. There will be bugs or defects in all applications, but it should be in lesser quantity. Your bug should not be 40, 50%. Okay, now they create something called as test plan. Okay, that will tell us like which environment we are going to use, what are the different scenarios we are going to test. For example, if we take our voting system, we should create one scenario where a person's age is less than 18 years, one scenario where person's age is more than 18 years, one scenario where person's age is exactly 18 years. Then we said that we will take in Aadhaar to validate if you are an Indian citizen or not. So if I give you Aadhaar with wrong details, how is the system behaves? If I give you Aadhaar with right details, then how is the system behaving? So like that, you create different scenarios that you are going to test. Okay. So in test plan, you list out what environment you are going to use, when are you going to start testing, what are the different scenarios that will be tested, and then accordingly test and communicate, keep everyone updated about the progress of your testing. So this is to ensure that I'm delivering a quality product that is 80 to 85% or 90% defect free. Okay. Now that leads to our next term, that is defect. Now what is defect? Defect is basically any deviation from the standard expected output. Suppose if I give you, if I told you that these three, if I fulfill these three combination, I should be allowed to vote. Okay. Suppose if these three conditions are fulfilled, still the system denies me to vote. Okay. So what happens is, my general expectation is if I fulfill these three criteria, I should be allowed to vote. But the system denied voting rights for me. Why? Even when I was fulfilling these three criteria. Now that deviation from the expected output is usually termed as defect. Okay, deviation from standard or expected output is your defect. Suppose if I fulfill only two criteria, I don't fulfill the third criteria, then what it means is because I'm not fulfilling all three criteria, so I should not be allowed to vote. But the system allows me to vote. Now, again, this is a deviation. Why? Because my expected output was if I don't fulfill all three criteria, I should not be allowed. But the system is allowing me. So these are termed as defects. So again, one more terms that you will common here in your IT industries, defects. Customers will usually like to raise defects, that this is a defect, this is a deviation from the expected output. And what we in IT industry keep doing is we try to convince customer, no, this is expected, you should raise a change request. Why? Because when you raise a change request, you need to pay money. Okay. But when you raise a defect, that means it is the problem of IT company. So they need to use their money, IT company, they need to use their money to fix the defect. Okay. So that is why there is a lot of emphasis on defects. Whenever a defect will come, you will see people panicking all around. Hey, do the analysis. Why this defect? Why didn't we catch it? uh, what could have been done to prevent this defect? Is it coding issue, testing issue, requirement issue? Or if it's not a defect, then can we ask customer to raise the change request so that we will get money? Okay. So that is where whenever you see a defect, you will see, lot of action within your IT industry. So that is defect. Remember, any deviation from expected output is termed as defect. Now customer may consider something as deviation from expected output. So that's where everyone, the business analyst, will go back to their requirement document. They will see what is mentioned in the requirement document. They will also look at solution document. If all looks good, okay, then we go back to customer saying that this is not deviation, this is expected output. And why it is expected, then you show the customer your requirement document, whatever documentation you have to prove that it is the expected output, so as to convince customer to close defect and open a change request. But in case if you are not able to provide any supporting or relevant document, then it continues as defect. Okay. Any defect has higher priority. You cannot keep a defect open in production. You need to fix it as soon as possible. For example, for a regular delivery, like working on a change request or adding new features, you may take, let's say, 2 weeks of time or 3 weeks of time. But when a defect comes, depending on the priority, you may have to fix it maybe within 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, at max not more than a week. Okay. So far, any questions, guys? I covered these basic terminologies so that we all are on same page with our understanding. And when we start our class from tomorrow and from day 7 onwards, when we start discussing in detail about stakeholders, about risk management or risk analysis, we'll keep using these terms. Okay. So when we use these terms, we should be aware of their meaning as well. So before we end our discussion for the day, any more questions?
No, Rahul. So, do we have class tomorrow also?
Yeah, I think that's the communication I received
Okay.
tomorrow as well, same time.